What if I told you that the most copied deli sandwich in America was invented at a poker game in a hotel in Omaha by a Lithuanian Jewish grocer who just wanted something to eat at midnight? That the frozen dinner, the TV dinner that fed a generation of American families and changed how a country thought about food preparation, was invented by a company headquartered in Omaha? That a bread pocket stuffed with beef and cabbage, invented by German-Russian immigrants fleeing the steppes of Russia, became the official state sandwich of Nebraska? Omaha does not shout about its food. It never needed to. The food left Omaha and found the rest of the country on its own. It is 1925. The top floor of the Blackstone Hotel in downtown Omaha, Nebraska, the finest hotel between Chicago and San Francisco at the time. A group of men who call themselves the Committee have gathered for their weekly Sunday night poker game. They are prominent businessmen: Charles Schimmel, the hotel's owner; Reuben Kulikowski, a Lithuanian-born Jewish grocer who owns the Central Market, one of the largest wholesale and retail food operations in the city; and several others. Each hand, a few nickels and dimes from the pot, go into a pile for the midnight snack. When the hour arrives, Charles Schimmel sends down to the kitchen where his son Bernard, recently returned from culinary training at the École Hotelière in Lausanne, Switzerland, is on duty. The kitchen sends up a variety of meats and breads. The men assemble their own sandwiches. On this particular night, Reuben Kulikowski asks for something specific: corned beef and sauerkraut. Bernard Schimmel takes the order seriously. He drains the sauerkraut and mixes it with Russian dressing. He layers it with corned beef. He adds Swiss cheese, a preference he developed in Switzerland. He grills the whole thing on dark rye bread. The sandwich goes up to the poker table. The committee eats. The committee agrees. This is the best thing that has happened all night. Charles Schimmel adds it to the hotel restaurant menu immediately, naming it after the man who requested it. A 1934 Blackstone menu lists it at 40 cents. In 1956, a Blackstone waitress named Fern Snyder entered the Reuben in the National Sandwich Idea Contest sponsored by the National Restaurant Association. It won. New York has a competing claim. Arnold Reuben, who owned a famous Manhattan delicatessen, claimed his restaurant invented it in 1914. His version, made with ham, turkey, Swiss cheese, coleslaw, and Russian dressing, bears a family resemblance to what Kulikowski ordered at the Blackstone, but is not the same sandwich. The Reuben that the world makes, orders, and argues about, corned beef, sauerkraut, Swiss, Russian dressing, rye, comes from Omaha. In 2013, the city declared March 14th Reuben Sandwich Day. Tom Brokaw, who grew up in South Dakota and knew Omaha well, wrote to say that he and his wife once considered the Blackstone Reuben the height of haute cuisine. Warren Buffett, the Oracle of Omaha, grew up here when the sandwich was already on the hotel menu. Omaha has a Blackstone Society, a group of people who travel the city's restaurants systematically in search of the perfect version. In 1953, a Swanson & Son salesman named Jerry Thomas was staring at a problem. The company, headquartered in Omaha, had 260 tons of surplus frozen turkey left over from Thanksgiving. The turkey was sitting in refrigerated railroad cars, going nowhere, costing money. Thomas had recently seen airline meal trays, individual compartmented aluminum trays that held multiple food items separately. He had the idea: package the surplus turkey with sides in individual compartmented trays, freeze the whole thing, and sell it ready to cook. His boss at Swanson initially resisted. Thomas persisted. The first Swanson TV dinner went on sale in 1953. Turkey, cornbread dressing, buttered peas, and sweet potatoes, sealed in a 3-compartment aluminum tray. It cost 98 cents. The instructions said to heat it in the oven for 25 minutes. The name TV dinner was chosen because the tray resembled a television set and because the product was designed to be eaten while watching the new appliance that was changing American life. Television and the TV dinner arrived in American homes simultaneously. The timing was not accidental. Swanson sold 10 million TV dinners in the first year. By 1960, 49 states had television sets, and the frozen dinner had become a category of its own. The TV dinner did something that no single food product had done before. It made it possible to eat a full, hot, multi-course meal in an American home without anyone cooking. It changed the structure of the American evening. It is the reason the frozen food aisle exists. Swanson was acquired by Campbell's Soup in 1955. Production moved away from Omaha. The original aluminum trays were replaced with microwave-safe packaging in the 1980s. This one requires explanation outside of Nebraska. Inside Nebraska, no explanation is necessary. A Runza is a yeast dough pocket. Soft, slightly sweet, pillowy, stuffed with a filling of seasoned ground beef, onions, and cabbage, sealed closed and baked until the outside is golden and the inside is hot and steaming. You eat it in your hands. It is lunch. It is the Nebraska lunch. The Runza traces to the German-Russian immigrants who settled in Nebraska in the late 19th century. These were ethnic Germans who had lived in Russia for over a century, invited there by Catherine the Great in the 1760s to farm the steppes, before emigrating to the American Great Plains when the Russian government revoked their privileges. They brought with them a stuffed bread called bierok, or krautbierok, dough filled with meat and cabbage, baked in the oven, carried into the fields for a portable lunch. In Nebraska, the bierok became the Runza. The name is thought to derive from a Russian or Low German word for the dough pocket itself. In 1949, Sally Everett and her brother Alex Brenning opened the first Runza drive-in in Lincoln, Nebraska, serving the family recipe at scale. Today, Runza is a fast food chain with over 85 locations, almost all in Nebraska, with a few in neighboring states. The menu has expanded: cheese Runza, BBQ Runza, mushroom Swiss Runza. The original, beef, onion, cabbage, dough, remains the standard. In 2021, Nebraska officially designated the Runza as the state sandwich. This is appropriate. In 1917, a Latvian immigrant named J.J. Simon and his son Lester opened a butcher shop in Omaha. They called it the Table Supply Meat Company. They were selling to restaurants and hotels in the city. They were good at it. The decision that changed the company came in the 1950s when Lester's son Frederick began mail-ordering steaks directly to consumers. The concept was simple but ahead of its time. Buy beef in Omaha, the center of the American cattle industry, butcher it to precise specifications, vacuum seal it, pack it in dry ice, and ship it frozen to anywhere in the country. The customer received a restaurant-quality steak at home. Omaha is not an accident as the center of the American beef industry. The Union Stockyards of Omaha, opened in 1884, became the largest livestock market in the world by the early 20th century. The railroads that converged on Omaha made it the natural processing point for cattle from across the Great Plains. Packing house workers, a workforce that was substantially immigrant and substantially organized, built the industry that made Omaha's reputation. Omaha Steaks, the name the family adopted in 1966, leaning into the city's beef identity, pioneered the direct-to-consumer mail-order food business. The catalog, the gift box, the dry ice shipping, all of it was developed by a family in Omaha before Amazon existed, before the internet existed, before the concept of direct-to-consumer had a name. In 1928, a candy maker at the Blackstone Hotel in Omaha, the same hotel where the Reuben was invented 3 years earlier, developed a new confection. Hard toffee made from butter, brown sugar, and almonds, broken into irregular pieces with a crunch that shattered into a buttery caramel sweetness. He called it Butter Brickle. The candy became a flavor. Butter Brickle ice cream, vanilla ice cream with pieces of the toffee candy folded in, became one of the most popular ice cream flavors in the Midwest. The Heath bar is a version of the same concept, though with a different shape. The Score bar is a version. Toffee ice cream as a category in American ice cream culture traces to the confection developed at the Blackstone Hotel in Omaha. The Butter Brickle flavor spread to candy bars, to cake mixes, to ice cream brands across the country. Most people who have eaten it do not know the name originated in Omaha. Most people who have eaten it have come back for more. In the 1940s, a cafe owner in St. Paul, Nebraska, a small town 150 miles west of Omaha, developed a salad dressing that has no real equivalent anywhere else in the country. Dorothy Lynch. Dressing is sweet, tangy, slightly spicy, and bright red-orange from paprika. It is tomato-forward, with a sweetness that distinguishes it completely from French dressing and a texture that is its own. It tastes like nothing made outside Nebraska. Inside Nebraska, it is the default salad dressing, the thing that people put on salads, on sandwiches, as a dip for vegetables. The way ranch dressing is the default in other regions. Dorothy Lynch is sold in every grocery store in Nebraska and in neighboring states. Outside the Great Plains, it is essentially unknown. Nebraskans who move away report this as one of the more significant inconveniences of relocation. The dressing has not changed since Dorothy Lynch made it in her cafe. That is considered its primary virtue. In the 1870s and 1880s, Czech immigrants settled in significant numbers across Nebraska, in Omaha, in villages throughout the Platte River Valley, in communities that maintained Czech language and Czech tradition well into the 20th century. They brought kolacha, a round, sweet yeast pastry with a depression in the center filled with fruit, paprika, poppy seed paste, tevero, sweetened cottage cheese, or nut filling. The dough is enriched with eggs and butter, slightly sweet, tender, and pillowy. The filling is the argument. Every Czech family has strong opinions about which filling is correct and which combinations are acceptable. Nebraska's Czech communities have maintained the kolache tradition with unusual fidelity. The Czech Festival in Wilbur, Nebraska, called the Czech capital of Nebraska, has been running since 1962 and features kolache in quantities that require planning months in advance. Czech bakeries in Omaha have been producing them since the early 20th century. The kolache has spread from Nebraska to Texas, where it became a different and more commercially successful product, available at kolache factory chains across the South. In 1924, a restaurant opened in Omaha that has been serving the same food in essentially the same way for over a century. The Bohemian Cafe on South 13th Street is a Czech-American restaurant, one of the oldest continuously operating ethnic restaurants in the Midwest. The menu has not changed in living memory. Svíčková, beef tenderloin in cream sauce with bread dumplings and cranberry sauce, roasted duck with sauerkraut and nedlicky, Czech goulash, liver dumpling soup. The dishes are the dishes that Czech immigrants made from what they brought and what they found in Nebraska, adapted over generations into something that is simultaneously Czech and specifically Omaha. The Bohemian Cafe is not a museum. It is a working restaurant with regulars who have been coming for decades, who know the servers' names, who order without consulting the menu. The Czech-American community that built South Omaha's neighborhoods in the late 19th century is gone, dispersed into the suburbs and beyond. The restaurant remains as a record of what they ate. In 1957, Valentino, a University of Nebraska student, opened a pizza restaurant in Lincoln, Nebraska, with $300 borrowed from his parents. He called it Valentino's. The pizza Valentino developed, thick, soft crust, heavy sauce, generous cheese, became the pizza of Nebraska. Valentino's expanded to Omaha and across the state. By the 1970s, it was the dominant pizza chain in Nebraska, beating out national brands that found it difficult to compete with a product that Nebraskans had grown up eating and considered the standard. Valentino's pizza is its own style, not New York, not Chicago, not Neapolitan. It is Nebraska. The crust is thick but not deep dish. The sauce is sweet. The cheese is copious. It is a pizza that does not aspire to be anything other than what it is, in a state that respects that quality. Omaha is a city that built things and shipped them out and let the rest of the country take the credit. The Reuben went to every deli in America. The TV dinner went to every freezer. The Runza stayed in Nebraska, which is its right. The Omaha Steaks catalog reached every zip code in the country before anyone had thought of mail-order food as a category. The butter Brickle flavor became a standard without anyone knowing where it came from. This is how Omaha operates. It is a railroad city, a place built on the movement of goods and people from one place to another. The cattle came in from the plains and went out as beef. The immigrants came in from Europe and became Nebraskans. The ideas, the sandwich, the frozen dinner, the mail-order steak, went out to the country and became American. Not every city has a sandwich that was invented at a midnight poker game and won a national contest 30 years later. Not every city's most famous food innovation was created from 260 tons of leftover Thanksgiving turkey. Not every city has a stuffed bread pocket as its official state sandwich.